Today, Ian and I are diving into a topic that hits way too close to home for both of us: skin sensitivity. You know the drill: the shirt tag that feels like a knife, the face cream that's supposed to be soothing but burns, or the socks that make you want to crawl out of your own skin. We unpack how sensory processing differences show up in real life, especially for those of us with ADHD or autism. From school uniforms that felt unbearable to adult grooming routines that feel more like survival strategies, we cover it all. It's a mix of relatable chaos and real talk, with a few laughs and a lot of validation along the way. So if you've ever been told you're too sensitive, or just can't handle things like everyone else, trust me, you're not alone. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're back and we are going to touch on something we were discussing in the break that I had misunderstood about you when we were talking about water, because a lot of people with ADHD and autism have sensory experiences and they don't like to either get in the shower, in the bath, or it takes them a lot of energy to do that for many different reasons. I know you and I had a conversation in the past and I relayed the conversation, but got a bit of it wrong and you clarified it. I just want to set the scene here. A friend of mine has a child that is undiagnosed, that they believe is autistic or has ADHD, and they've been trying to seek help for them, but kind of being told, hey, they're in school. What are you worried about? They're fine. They're going to grow up. They'll probably get married. They'll probably be okay. Why are you worried? And in the background, we're having all these really emotionally draining, like, battles. And one of them is around him bathing, because as parents, they want their kid to be clean. They want him to be presentable at school. School has certain standards, right? So he needs to be clean. They want him, like, when they go on vacation, he's on the beach, he's rolling around in the sand. If he doesn't get rinsed off properly, he's going to have sand rubbing later, and that's going to be a sensory nightmare. So he needs to get in the shower. But he gets really upset. He absolutely hates it. He says it hurts his skin. She said, I can kind of understand it with the sea and the sand. He absolutely doesn't like getting his hair washed. He's kind of 8 at this point, and I have to be in there with him, really encouraging him to wash his hair, and it's such a battle. I was relaying to her about you, or what I thought I remembered of our conversation. She thought he was just being resistant to getting a bath or being oppositional, because, like, I can be oppositional right now. And she's like, I didn't kind of take a step back to think, like, maybe it does really hurt him. I thought that was something you experienced on a consistent basis, but you corrected me and said, no, it's not actually on a consistent basis. I'm going to stop now.
Yeah. No, I was saying for me, if I'm stressed, if I'm anxious, if I'm upset, then the sensory sensitivity and tactile sensitivity is where it starts to take over. As a parent, for example, if your child's upset or they've hurt themselves or they're in tears, the first thing you want to do is go over, give them a hug, tell them everything's going to be okay. For me, that's when I'm at my most painful. So I've no objections, I've no issues with showers, with baths, with swimming, with the sea. If I'm in a calm state, if everything's fine. The moment I'm upset or the moment I'm angry, my skin turns as though it's on fire. And that's anything, whether it's touch, but that's water. And showers in that sense is just like being hit with pins. It's like somebody firing needles into your skin. Somebody giving you a hug is the same as somebody taking a poker or something really hot and sticking it on your skin and holding it on your skin. the way my sensory processing works is slightly different because I'm not sure whether or not it's neural pathways. The moment there's any stress and anxiety, that's one of the first things to go. I need to be away from people. It's a really weird one because you often hear stories with labels used to be a problem for me, where it's like rubbing on the back of your neck. That can have an impact, or seams on socks, which did used to be a problem. But also, sometimes I actually use that to soothe, where it's, if I'm stressed because I know that it's causing that pain, but I can control it. I can put one foot on top of the toe and just push that in and control it that way. Tactile sensitivity is very much a hard one to manage. Out of everything and coping mechanisms, that's one that I've not been able to manage in any way. There's nothing that actually makes that work besides avoiding hugs, avoiding showers if I'm upset.
I don't love being touched by people, especially people that I don't know, but I also have a lot of affectionate friends. So I'm okay hugging people that I know, that I'm familiar with. I don't know what the social etiquette is, and I don't know if I should hug somebody, shake their hand and things. So there's times being very English, I've gone to shake somebody's hand and they've looked at me like, are you seriously shaking my hand right now? And I've been like, do I hug you? It's been this awkward, weird thing. Sometimes I'll say to somebody, should we hug, or do you want to? I'll say it in advance and they'll go, yeah, okay. But it's not something pervy. I absolutely hate being touched by people that I think are being pervy or a bit too touchy. Even now, it's making my skin crawl. I had this weird thing that is not to do with bathing, so we'll get back to that. But when I first moved to America, one of the really big cultural differences that became very obvious very quickly is the approach that men take to try and win your attention in a bar situation. In England, there's a lot more of this kind of dance around and like stuff going on. I would have people here just walk up to me and put hands on me and start talking to me. It was just really bizarre. I've like literally the words came out of my mouth one day to somebody, can you take your penis off my leg, please? Because he's like talking to me and rubbing. And it's just like, really, really
Mm.
uncomfortable. Mum also is not somebody that likes to be touched by strangers, doesn't love hugs. One of the most comical, uncomfortable moments I've ever seen her in was actually at Burning Man, and somebody in our camp went to give her a hug. And it happened to be a man in our camp, and he's wearing a tutu, but no pants. This guy is a hugger. So he goes over to Mum to give her a good morning hug. He's just like one of those people that, like, lets it all hang out. His wife and kids were in camp with his mum's just there, like, I don't think I'm comfortable with that, Lois. He's not wearing any pants. I'm like, say to people, I'm not comfortable being hugged, but I give you a little side hug or something. That was something for her having to deal with everybody. Everybody there hugs. That's how people greet each other.
Mhm.
It's definitely like mass exposure to being touched. But I don't want to have somebody in my space all the time. If I'm stressed out and Brian touches my arm, I'll jump. And he'd be like, Jesus Christ, Lois. In the last couple of weeks, my skin will get really itchy and I'll scratch my legs. My legs are so badly bruised right now. It looks
Mm.
like I've been kicked and beaten and things. I haven't. Anyway, back to the shower and the bathing and the sensory experience of that. So
Mm.
I know for me,
So,
mine's
so
more kind of distractions getting into the place, but I do love a good bath or shower. I love washing my hair and having it dry naturally. I love moisturizing. I don't do it all the time, but I
mm,
do like to do it.
I used to hate showers and love baths. I used to love to lay in the bath and put my head back so that my ears were submerged and I
Hmm.
couldn't hear anything going on. I always had a preference for that with your friend and the situation there. What's most important is to try and understand why they don't like that, whether or not it's to do with that feeling, like the needles or the burning or that sensation. It definitely sounds like it's a sensory thing. One way to tell that is whether or not it's showers or baths. Another thing around that is water temperature. I used to hate if the water was too hot. It had to be just the right temperature,
Yep.
and it used to be so frustrating to get the right temperature. Now I much prefer a hot shower to a colder one. So I think the best way is to try and understand. I mean, you said they're 8 now, so as they're a little bit older, it's a lot easier to give somebody a bit more control over what would work, whether it's the shower, whether it's the bath, whether it's the temperature, whether, even the noise. Because sometimes I think, depending on the shower, sometimes the noise of it hitting everything as well is causes more of a auditory sensitivity. So it's there's definitely a sensory element there. It's trying to understand which part of the sensory element is impacted and see what you can actually do to adjust and tune in around that.
So I was talking to one of your children about this the other day, and I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this. She had washed her hair and she knew about this conversation about this person with the baths and showers and things. And she was saying that she really resists the kind of like process of doing, like, she finds it difficult to like motivate herself to do it because it takes her so long to wash her hair, and it's so thick that it takes her so long to dry it, and her arms get, and I get that, right? Even if I'm straightening my hair, I touched up my hair dye a few days ago and I only did half my head because I ran out of steam, because my arms were hurting, because when you're like this and you've got a lot to deal, so it's like the process of all of that is so overwhelming to her
Hmm.
that it's like she puts off other things, but it's because she doesn't like the feeling of wet hair on the back of her neck. And we were like talking, well, what about a shower cap? Yeah, they're great, but some of it still
Yeah.
comes out and I can still feel it. And when I'm getting dry and it's on my back, well, have you thought about some kind of a towel or something that comes up over your shoulder so it's not on your back? Yeah, but then this, and I'm just imagining the calamity because I know I would be too. She's like, I can't do that thing where you wrap it in a thing because it falls off and the towel comes off my back. And I'm like, I've been there. I've been there trying to hold it. So it's like similar challenges, but a very different reason for, I guess, for us with ADHD. It's the calamity and all the steps involved that we're like, but when I do that, I've got to do this, this, and this. I know. Luckily, my hair's curly and it holds its curls, so I can wash it, brush it, and let it drip dry. And I know I'll have a head full of curls. So it's kind of easy for me because it's not something I have to manage. And then if I want to do it, I just straighten it, which takes me like 15 minutes. And it straightens easily, right? Thinking of the overwhelm involved, that whole sensory experience. I too like laying in the bath and sticking my head back there, but I like to put my entire face under the water and just let my hair flow like I'm a mermaid or something. I love being in water. Whenever I'm with Brian and we're driving through a town or something and I can see people's big houses, I'll be like, do you think they've got a pool? Do you think they've got a pool? I'm like, where can I get an excavator in here so I can build a natural pool that I can swim in? Like, I'm obsessed with, I need one of those natural swimming pools. And they're on bedrock, so it's not the easiest landscape to deal with, but hey, that's why I studied permaculture. I used to work with adults with developmental disabilities, and some of those had comorbidities like autism and OCD and Fragile X syndrome. Routine was key. Absolutely key. Getting into an agreed routine So every day they had
Mm.
to do these things, and then on whatever day of the week it was, they'd get their reward that they'd earned. We did have progress doing things that way, right? It was very slow. When we trained staff, we would say it might take somebody 5 years to pick up that skill, but that's why we're here. And sometimes you'll see that tiniest bit of progress and you got to celebrate that because it is progress. But if you're thinking about a parent and they're kind of thinking, hey, my kid's just doing this because they're trying to rebel or exert power, right? And in actual fact, maybe there is something going on. How would you go about convincing that kid? Because I think there's rejection, oppositional defiance disorder, and pathological demand avoidance as well. So the more you tell a kid, hey, you've got to do this because of X, Y, and Z, right? They're going to be like, no, I don't.
Mm.
Doesn't make logical sense. What would you say to a parent to get beyond that pathological demand thing? I definitely agree with you, like finding out what it is that they don't like. Is it the water temperature? Is it the noise? Is it how it hits the skin? Would they prefer a bath? Do they need to wash their hair 7 days a week? Can they do it 3 or 2? Can they take the weekend off and do it on Sunday night? That's kind of where we would go and say, does this person like definitely choose your battles? And this friend is of that mindset. The more I push, the more I get pushed back. So I'm trying to choose my battles wisely, but I need them to at least have some level of hygiene that's acceptable.
I think that the whole point is it's hard from a parental perspective because what you don't want to be doing is compromising that level of authority. So there is always that boundary there, not authority in terms of control, but being able to have that boundary. Otherwise, you open the door to so much. I think the best approach is to come up with a compromise in a specific situation. So if you were to put a chart together, it's like Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays with the girls, that was very similar. Where these are shower nights and on a weekend is a bath night. Routine that is put in place. But what you can do with that is say, right, this is a night where you need to be clean. These are your options, whether it's a bath, a shower, but this is happening. What is your preference? And then get them engaged in it. I saw that in parental webinar I attended recently. Even with food, for example, you don't ask a child, what do you want to eat tonight? Here are the choices. You still have that level of control where the boundary is in place, but you're also giving the child that chance to have input in there and make decisions. What you tend to find when you do that is you're creating that level of responsibility so that as they grow older and in that routine, they know that I have to take care of myself. I have to do this, especially when they become a teenager and become an adult. You building that structure around it, being able to at least offer and say, right, okay, so this is what's going to happen. These are the choices, these are the options, and have them input.
Go ahead.
I was going to say what you can add in there is if it's down to sensory things, what would make that a better experience? If it's down to temperature, can it be cooler? If you look at neurodiversity as a spectrum, not everybody's going to be able to input in the same way. You can still follow that, but adjust the level of support you need to put in place.
So, on that point, I would love to hear what you think about, because for me, I take a kind of weird approach with children, and I'm not a parent, I'm an auntie, so I take an auntie approach with a lot of kids that I interact with. We're talking about finding out why. I think we don't give kids enough credit for understanding the why of things. I like to probe them a little bit and ask them questions. I get that you don't like to do this, but in the workplace, in schools, in wherever, this is what's expected. If we don't do this, what do you think might happen? Give them the opportunity to say, maybe I'll smell bad and people won't want to be my friends, right? Or maybe I might get, but if they don't understand that, you can then, for me, it's like, do you want me to tell you what might happen? In a very palatable way, explain those things. When we're in these spaces with other people, this is the expectation. How do you think we can work together to get to that? Do you think any of these options might work? On that younger level where there may not be as much comprehension, you can give those options to help them understand. We assume that a lot of kids don't get it. Sometimes people understand even though they are resentful. Understand it's a two-way street. They get, I don't like this, but I agreed to do those things. If I do those things, then I will have positive outcomes. Like people won't bully me at school for being the smelly kid, right? Because it's sad to say it, but like people remember those kids in school and those kids get bullied. You don't want to be that person that people are like, they're weird and they're like not clean or they're not whatever. And then also teachers, right? You don't want teachers thinking that you're neglecting your children, or you're going to send them to school dirty. But like, where do you draw the line and say, hey, my kid gets to choose maybe a strip wash? Maybe that's the compromise. Like, hey, okay, you don't want to get in the bath, but can we do a strip wash tonight? Or are you like, no compromise there? It's like, hey, we're doing this and this is the way we do it.
No, say there has to be that. I don't know. It's a hard one because, I mean, you're right in the sense that children know a lot more. But when you offer that compromise, the compromise would be, well, that's fine. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to watch TV instead. Then you're in the realms of chaos. It's going to cause arguments. It's going to cause trouble. Everyone's going to be upset. It's not going to get resolved what you wanted to do. So that's why that boundary and level of control needs to be there, because that's where you can help and direct and guide. So where compromise comes in, yes, there's that level of compromise, but it still has to be within the realms. And I've seen that play out, especially where it comes to something like showering and bathing, where someone's given the option, this is the routine. The best thing to do is to have a chart with all of that, because then that routine is there. Then you can look at things to start to prepare so it doesn't come out the blue. But being able to say to them, right, okay, here's the options. There's going to be a shower. If the child turns around and says, do you know what, I want a strip wash, you are still achieving that goal and they're still having that input.
Yeah.
But what you wouldn't want to do is go to that level where that's what they want every time.
Every single time. Yeah, absolutely. They can't use a star chart because they tried doing that and it was quite successful until his younger sister started outstarring him on the star chart, and then it became a point of contention and behavior now. So he just will not engage with the star chart because he doesn't want his sister to do better.
It doesn't need to be a star chart. It's not about reward, it's about the routine.
Yeah.
You can always do that privately. If we've had progress on something, if
we
you
used to have
wanted
data
to go
books. So we'd do it sitting with people in private spaces, especially if it was counselling, and we'd have a data book with us of things to read through with them and process feelings and stuff.
I'm always of that opinion. There's a time and a place for rewarding. If somebody achieves something, that's a good time to actually call out and say, you know, well done. But when you start going down the route of rewarding people for certain behaviours, it becomes a point that if somebody is doing those behaviours and there's no reward, it goes backwards.
I mentioned at the beginning that within the autistic community, one of the threads I follow on Reddit, it comes up a lot. People are very resistant to ABA because it is very like that, right? It's like carrot, 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 reward. It's not necessarily that people regress per se, but it's also like, what are we teaching people? We need to take a step back and look at what's going on and say, is that behavior that we think is a behavior actually a communication? Is there something in our environment that can be changed to help that person? Is there something that we're going to have to figure out a way to teach them, hey, it sucks, but that's life and you're going to experience this, so we have to get used to it. And I think just having those tools in place, right, and that kind of progressive learning to navigate the world in a safe space. And for the people I used to work with, rights were so limited because they were living in group homes and their lives are like supervised 24/7, right? And it's like they can't go anywhere unless you're taking them. To try and instill independence and still create a sense of freedom and choice was very difficult. And we would always try to give choices, but then it's like, who's choosing the choices? I'm going to go out and choose the flavors of Crystal Light they can drink because we've decided they can't have soda or pop because that's bad for them. So they can have this shitty powder that you mix in water. And their choice is, do you want this flavor or this flavor? Maybe they want milk or maybe a coffee or tea or something else entirely. And I have the freedom to choose what I drink with my meal. So who's giving them the choice? And whose choices are they making? We were always trying to foster that independence by taking choices a step further and not just being this or this. But there's also a safe way to navigate that, and there's a pathway to get to that place. And it's like that path, like you said, comes from compromise, but it also comes from really working out where that message is coming from and what it is. Is that person hates going to school, their shoes are too small, part of their routine is getting the shower, and that triggers like, oh, then I've got to go to bed, then I've got to wake up, and then I've got to wear painful shoes and go to a place I hate. Maybe that's why they don't want to get in the shower, right? And it could be deeper or something sensory. It could be avoidance because you're telling me that I have to do this thing that I know I have to do, but I don't want to do it. The other thing that I think gets missed a lot is giving people transition periods, right? So maybe somebody has come in from the garden, they're covered in mud. It's not ideal. You don't want mud in your house, right? Compromise. Hey, before you come in the house, make sure your shoes are off and brush any loose mud off your knees. And then if you need to take a break before you clean up, go take 20 minutes and play on your game, and then we're going to jump in the shower. Right? The resistance is he doesn't want to get in the bath and clean himself, even though he's covered in mud. He just wants to go and play the game. So is the compromise then like, okay, go let yourself come down from that energy that you just built up. And then by this time, I need you to do this thing.
I'll be honest, that was one thing I used to hate. It depended on how the day had been. So giving somebody 10 minutes to decompress before something else happens, which is then going to add to that, sometimes isn't the right way. Other times it's like, no, I need 30 minutes or I need an hour. It all depends on the day. So to be able to time box that and go, right, okay, we will do this. It doesn't get anywhere for those 10 minutes. As a parent or an individual, think you're giving somebody that time. You're not. What they're doing for that 10 minutes is they're stressing over what will come in the next 10 minutes. And then you'll see parents go, well, we had a horrible night, this happened, that happened, the other happened, because I know within myself that even if I take decompression time, if I know that I've got something coming up, part of that time is preparing my energy and what's to come for the next thing I've got. A child, it's a very similar situation going on.
Would that be one of the moments you give an option? Ideally, we need to get this thing finished. So you have up to this long. And then come and let me know when you're about to jump in.
I don't know. It would all depend on the situation, but my approach would probably be to do that first. Get that out the way first. It's only going to take 10-15 minutes, but once that's done, then you've got all of this time, because then you're not worrying from the perspective of the individual. You're not worrying about what's coming because you've moved from one thing to the next. It's a lot easier to be able to you'll have more to decompress, but it's a lot easier to do that knowing that nothing else is coming up than if you have a break in between, because ultimately it's not a break. So that, but everybody's different. Everybody will have a different approach. But if I think back to us as children, and I think perfect example of it is the washing and drying of dishes. And, you know, Simpsons used to be on. And it used to be, let's watch Simpsons first and then do that. You could only really watch half because you knew that washing and drying the dishes was coming straight after. If we'd have eaten earlier and then gone straight into doing that, that would have been a much better way to have managed that time and that sensory impact.
I am pretty sure that our mother would have appreciated us both getting up immediately from the dinner table and washing and drying the dishes. And I certainly would procrastinate because I hated doing the washing and drying, and I usually had to do the drying because you wanted to get like shit washed and get away. So you would get shit washed, and it would be me with the drying that would always be getting yelled at because it would be 7 o'clock and I still hadn't done the drying, and it would be 9 o'clock and I still hadn't done my homework. And then it'd be like 11 o'clock and I still hadn't got my shoes polished. Anyway, you get the picture. We have not spoken about the Diversity Awards, but we do need to talk about that. I need to feed this little monster because it's way past her dinner time. And it's also the cat's dinner time, and he's going to start like full-on weeping angel in a minute. He comes up all the time and gives me little nips and licks my hand. And I'm like, you're a little monster. You would eat me. But yeah, they need their food, and then this little fart machine. I'm just amazed that such bad smells can come out of such a cute little fuzzy monster. And afraid to move because she's been sleeping. And my mum was like, you sound like you've got a baby.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Thing right now where she breathes out and her cheeks puff. It's kind of sweet. Her little bony chew bone looks like poop as well, so I'll see it because it's brown and like shiny, and I'll be like, oh my god, it's shit. And it's not, it's just a chew. All right, thank you for those insights. I'm really excited about sharing this episode. Thanks for listening to Unlabelled and Limitless, where we hold space for stories that challenge norms and celebrate neurodivergent voices. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a rating or review. It helps more people find their way to these conversations. We've got more real talk coming your way soon, so please don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. And until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, you don't have to fit into a box to belong.